Even more players join Kay Cunningham, Killian Hayes, Isaiah Stewart in health and safety protocols. The Pistons are currently playing the Spurs with a bunch of players who aren't even really on the Pistons. It's been a tough watch, man. So in today's episode, we're going to have a mailbag episode. Stay tuned for that on today's episode of the Lockdown Pistons podcast.
You are Locked On Pistons, your daily Detroit Pistons podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's the deal? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast. I'm your host, Kuka Hill. You can find me over on Twitter at Kuka Hill. And before we get started real quick, I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We feel available on all your podcast platforms. And also make sure you go check us out on YouTube at Locked On Pistons. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. So I'm just going to keep it a stack with you guys right off the gate. First off, if you're watching this on YouTube, you guys see my new background, how crazy it is. Let me move this real quick so you guys can see the little Locked On Pistons thing over here that my fiance got me. I absolutely love this background, my whole setup now in my game room. If you guys follow me on Twitter, I tweet out a bunch of pics of the room. If you guys want to go check out what it looks like, it looks really dope. I got Matthew Stafford hung up right behind me, his jersey. I got Kay Cunningham right next to it with a big Detroit Pistons logo, LED light kind of thing shining in the back on the wall. It's a really nice setup, man. It's much better than it was beforehand. But anyways, I got to keep it a stack with you guys. The Pistons are currently playing the San Antonio Spurs. I'm not going to watch the rest of this game. I'm sorry, guys. And, I want to thank all of you who helped me come up with a podcast to talk about, because I asked for some questions to try to give me something to talk about. And I have right now 20 questions. So I don't even know if we'll be able to get through all of them. But I want to thank you guys who came up and shouted me out some questions, because I really did need some help. Because, man, the Pistons have almost their entire team in health and safety protocols. Instead of just going through the players who are in health and safety protocols, I think it would almost be better just to name the players who are still in the game. So right now, the Pistons are currently playing Hamidou Diallo, Sadiq Bey, Frank Jackson. Those are the only three players who are currently in the Pistons rotation in real life that do not have COVID right now or are not in health and safety protocols. Now, Luka Garza is starting now. He's on the team. And then Jamarco Pickett, if you want to count him, he's on a two-way contract. But that's all the Pistons have right now. They don't even have anybody on their team. Like, legit, only three rotational players are still alive. So I don't want to watch the rest of this game. I'm not going to lie. The Pistons are down by 24 at half. I don't think you guys really want to watch the rest of the game. I don't want to watch the rest of this game. And to be honest, me spending a whole podcast talking about this game, I just don't see why that would be fun or why anyone would care. Because, like I said, the real Pistons aren't even playing. So why should anyone care about what else is happening? So I wasn't going to sit here and waste you guys' time and talk about this game because to be honest, it just doesn't really. It really just doesn't matter. And that, that kind of takes me to what I want to talk about at first on the podcast before we get into the mailbag. And that, what should the NBA do about what's going on across the league right now? What's going on with these health and safety protocols, with COVID running rampant across the league? What should they do? So at first, my initial opinion was, listen, and I'm not a doctor or anything, so I could be this could be very ignorant. Who knows? But my first opinion at first was, it's here. It's not going nowhere. We're 2 years in. Some dudes are vaccinated. Some dudes aren't. I mean, you just got to keep it trucking. If you sign the 10-day guys until they get back, and when they get back, you just got to keep it going. We know it's not like you pause for 2 weeks. It just goes away all of a sudden and disappears. It's going to be here. You just got to keep it trucking, keep it rolling. It's the Christmas time. Everyone knew it would spike around this time because people are getting together with family, etc. So you just got to push through it and get to the other side. And while I still somewhat feel that way, I still feel like it probably, it's not going anywhere. You're just gonna have to eventually learn how to deal with it and how to live with it and how to, what's the word? Not really so-called live with it, not just like forget about it, but learn how to exist with it and how to move past it. I guess I should say, move with it with COVID in existence. Know how to handle everything. I do still somewhat share that opinion, but I guess it's because, and also for all of you guys on YouTube, you guys see this new Locked On shirt I was sent today. It's super dope. It matches my hat, my new Pistons hat I got. But anyways, you guys could probably say this a little has to do with me being biased towards the Pistons now, because now they're being hit with it. 100% that has a lot to do with it. But maybe it's because I just wasn't watching enough across the league, so I wasn't feeling it as much. But there's no purpose of games like this for the Pistons tonight. There's no purpose. This is even the Detroit Pistons. Now, listen, I understand if it was like 2 or 3 players out, and you still had like your rotation, and you still have players that played for your team out on the floor. The Pistons are currently playing guys by the name of Derek Walton Jr., Chet Diallo, Cassius Stanley, Davidas Savitas, and Jamarco Pickett. All these guys who are not really on the Pistons roster. It's just you're not even really watching the Pistons. You're just watching a bunch of like it's like basically watching a pickup game. At this point, the Pistons really shouldn't even be playing games. Like I don't see what the real point is here. Yeah, you have to get games played, and you want to keep the season going. You don't want to pause the season, whatever. But I mean, at this point, you're not even watching like actual NBA basketball. You're not even watching. You're basically watching G League games. This is what you're watching with the Pistons. You're basically watching the Motor City Cruise. And I wonder, what's the purpose there? What is that really serving? I understand. Again, they're trying to get through the season. They don't want to pause the season. Eventually, COVID's not going anywhere. You have to learn how to deal with it, how to move along with it. I get all of that, but like, I don't know, man. I think like pausing it for 2 weeks or maybe like a week and a half or something for the league, so players who are in health and safety protocols can come out of health and safety protocols, so you can actually have players who are on said teams playing. I think that actually serves the argument more than just I don't want to sound messed up saying this, but this is just a God honest truth. More than just caring, quote unquote, caring about COVID itself, NBA is a business. That's all they care about. So if you're looking at it from a business perspective, I almost would say that it makes more sense just wait like a week and a half, pause the league, let your stars and all these players. It's not just the Pistons who are being hit with it. We have stars across the league who are in health and safety, superstars, top 10 players, top 15 players, all over across the league out. I would say that it makes more sense business perspective to just, sit out, wait a week and a half, bring it back when all your stars are back, so your product on the floor is actually NBA basketball, and people want to watch your sport more. You can't tell me people are tuning in to these ESPN games like last night or 2 nights ago where Luka Doncic is even playing for the Mavericks. Like who's watching that? I know I wasn't. Who's out there is watching this game? Paul George is out now with an injury. That makes the Clippers even less watchable. Like you can just go across everywhere. It doesn't really make sense. I don't see who really wants to watch this. So again, I just want to make sure I'm saying this, making this clear. I still like somewhat agree with the idea of you just have to keep it pushing, keep the season going, try to get through this rough stretch and meet on the other side once the holiday season's over. But at this point, it's not even like again, we're not even watching the Pistons. There's some teams, the Pistons aren't the only ones. There's other teams like the Heat. The Heat have a lot of guys out. You're not even basically watching the Heat. The Chicago Bulls. You're not even watching the Bulls. The Bulls have like 20 people in health and safety protocols. Like, what are we doing here? What's the purpose? Again, I can understand if like 2 or 3 guys, but when your whole damn roster is in health and safety protocols, it is like you're not even watching that team anymore. You're just watching a bunch of pickup guys. So it is what it is. That's my opinion on it now. Again, it probably changed 100% because the Pistons are dealing with it now. But I see it and I understand it now for what it is that you're not even watching these real teams. You're not watching NBA basketball. You're watching G League basketball. And it's not fun. So let me know what you guys think about this. I see it from both ways, to be honest. So let me know what side you guys are on. Give me you guys' argument. I understand both sides. So just let me know where you guys stand on it. But when we come back, we'll answer all the questions you guys sent in. Thank you guys for saving me and saving the podcast and bringing a fun podcast to talk about today. But we'll talk about all those questions when we come back. But first, you guys know what we got to do. We got to talk about some of our sponsors. First up, let me tell you a little bit about TrueBill. Do you know why free trials are new without your consent? It's a business scam out to get you. Don't let greedy corporations pocket your money. Download TrueBill to take control of your subscriptions. TrueBill is the new app that helps you identify and stop paying for subscriptions you don't need, want, or simply forgot about. On average, people save up to $720 a year with TrueBill. Because companies make subscriptions hard to cancel, TrueBill makes it incredibly simple. Just link your accounts and TrueBill will cancel your unwanted subscriptions in just one tap. And your TrueBill counselor is there when you need them to cancel unwanted subscriptions, so you don't have to. TrueBill has over 2 million users that help them save over $100 million. Don't fall for the subscription scams. Start canceling today at truebill.com/LockedOnNBA. Go right now, truebill.com/LockedOnNBA. It can save you thousands a year. That's truebill.com/LockedOnNBA. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen and every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. And make sure if you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button. I'd really appreciate if you guys haven't done it already. We've been past our goal of 1,000 subscribers. Again, I want to thank you guys for helping us get there. The goal was by the end of the year, and we surpassed it with like 16 days to go. We even crossed 1,100 subscribers before the end of the year. So we're doing a great job. I appreciate you guys. If you haven't already, head over to the YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. But let's go ahead and get into some of these questions you guys asked me. Again, I just want to say thank you guys all who sent in questions and saved me here, because it's a tough watch, man. Like as of right now, the Pistons are currently down 25. And again, we already talked about how they don't even have any of their real guys out there. So it is what it is. Let's go ahead and have some fun on the podcast, though. We're not going to let the health and safety protocols take us from not allow us to have fun talking our Detroit Pistons. So let's go ahead and have some fun. Let's answer some of your guys' questions. I'm sure we have a ton, enough to finish the podcast. We'll probably have some even left over. But let's go ahead and get it going. First question. This one was from my guy, Lazarus Jackson, one of the editors over at Detroit Bad Boys, also the host of the Detroit Bad Boys podcast, Pistons vs. Everybody. He says, backup point guard, Hamidou Diallo, yes or no? I'm going to say no on this because of one thing. Now, in this game, in the first half, by the way, of the Spurs game, in the first half, Diallo was looking pretty good. He had 3 turnovers in the first half, but he was shooting 6 of 11. He was playing extremely aggressive, getting to the basket. I really like what we've seen from Hamidou Diallo over the last few weeks. Specifically once everyone started going out, he stepped up the aggression. He's getting to his spots. I even saw him hit a dribble pull-up 3. So I really liked what we've seen for Hamidou Diallo, and he's really snapped back into gear. And again, if you watched him over the last few weeks, you'd question how was he not in the rotation for the first 2 weeks of the year. But doesn't matter now. He's playing really well, I think, and that's good to see. But I'm gonna say no at backup point guard for this reason. Now, if you're saying, Last, if you're asking because during this time, when Pistons have nobody, absolutely. He should be playing 40 minutes. I don't care if you're playing a point guard, backup small forward, backup center. Play the guys. Play them all you want. But I'm assuming you're asking when everyone's healthy. I'm going to say no to that because of 2 reasons. One, they have Killian Hayes and Cade Cunningham already. I'd like to see them get staggered more. So hopefully they can take up some of those backup point guard positions or backup point guard minutes naturally there. And then secondly, I think a lot of people want to see Saben Lee play the backup point guard position. And I don't see no problem with that either. He's played decently well. I'd like to see him play backup point guard and get some development in. And also, Corey Joseph was just coming off of a 30-point game, who also entered health and safety protocols now. But he was coming off a 30-point game before he entered that health and safety protocol. So the Pistons have too many options at backup point guard to bump one of those guys out for Hamidou Diallo. So while I think it would be an interesting experiment on if they didn't have a backup point guard, I would be on board with it. But right now, they just have too many options at that point to where I don't think that they should kick someone out to experiment with it. Next question from Brendan Triola. He says, Troy River lets you sign any free agent to a 10-day hardship deal. Who do you get? Now, see, this is the kind of fun questions I like you guys asking, man. This is some fun. Okay, so I have 2 answers here. 2 answers. One, Michael Beasley. You guys have heard me. I think I mentioned it last week on the podcast. Michael Beasley has not gotten a 10-day yet, and I don't know how. We even had Greg Monroe get a 10-day today by the Minnesota Timberwolves. That's how deep in the bag the NBA is having to get. But Michael Beasley is a bucket. I don't care what anyone says. I know he may have some off-the-court issues, or he may be a little weird in the head, crazy, off-the-wall type of stuff. But that dude is an absolute bucket. I'll maintain to this day, there's not how many players in the NBA? 400, 450, 350. There's not that many players better than Michael Beasley. He can be an end of the roster kind of guy. He's too talented to not be in the NBA. I'm not saying he should be a rotational player, but not in the NBA. That meant Michael Beasley's too talented for that. So that's the first one. And then the second one I would hand out would be to my dude, my long lost friend, who is out the NBA right now. Sad to hear about it. Sad to see him out the NBA. Sekou Doumbouya, man. It's crazy that he's not in the NBA right now. I wonder what's going on with him. He was with the Lakers playing the G League. I don't think he's on a G League team now. I don't know where he's at. I don't know if he just basically said screw basketball. But, yeah, I'd like to see Sekou get a 10-day contract somewhere. So those will be my 2 answers right there. But Michael Beasley first, because Michael Beasley deserves to be in the NBA somewhere. Not as a rotation. He doesn't have to be a rotational player, but he is not. There is not 350 basketball players, 400 players better at basketball across the world than Michael Beasley. I refuse to believe it. Okay, next question. Playing some of the best basketball of his life. This question is from Brady Fredrickson, also over at Detroit Bad Boys. Playing some of the best ball of his career right now. How do you see Hamidou Diallo fitting in with the core over the next 2 to 3 years? It is an interesting question. I think this is a question you could probably ask about every single one of the guys on this roster outside Cade Cunningham. But with how Hamidou Diallo is playing as of late, I think this is what the Pistons wanted to see from him. This is what Troy Weaver wanted to see from him. This is why they signed him back. This is why they traded for him. So I think what Hamidou Diallo is doing right now is securing himself a spot, or trying to secure himself as a rotational piece off the bench for the Pistons in the future. Now, if he becomes more than that, that would be an 100% insane steal. But right now, I don't think that. I think you'd be a little bit out of pocket to try to say he'd be more than that on a contending team, or when the Pistons are trying to push, depending on what they have around them. But right now, the only reason why Hamidou Diallo is starting because Jeremy Grant's hurt, and the Pistons are about to have a top 3 pick again. Jeremy Grant might get traded, and there's a question in here. I already saw something about my trade targets for him, but I just don't see where he starts right now on the team. If he gets better and ends up getting to a point where he should start, obviously that's a big win. But I think where he's settling himself at right now, if he continues to play like this and continue to improve, that he's trying to secure himself a spot as a rotational piece, a guy who gets 20, 25 minutes off the bench for the Pistons moving into the future. Anything more than that, I think it's just icing on the cake, which is fine. But I think that would be more icing on the cake. Same question. One of you guys asked me the same question. Deacon asked me the same question about Saban. Saban, I'm not as high on Saban. I don't think, again, I think he's an interesting guy, but I don't have high expectations for him. I think he's probably going to end up the 3rd point guard on a good team. He'll dominate G League. I think Saban, this is the best way to put it. I think Saban is firmly stuck, and I'm worried that this is just where he's going to be throughout his career, which is not bad for where he was selected, but I just think this is where he's going to end up being stuck at. A player who's just way too talented and way too fast and athletic for the G League, dominates the G League, but just isn't good enough to be a mainstay in the NBA. So he's somewhere in that little gray area to where he's constantly bouncing back and forth. He'll dominate too much in the G League, and guys will be like, okay, let's bring him up. He's destroying these guys in the G League, see if he can do it in the NBA. And he's just not quite. He's not that much more athletic than everybody at the NBA level. He is in the G League, but in the NBA, he's not that much more athletic than everybody else on the court. So he's like stuck. I think he's going to be stuck in that gray area. So what I see for Saban moving in the future is probably the 3rd point guard on a good team. If he ends up being a backup point guard, that's an absolute win. I think that should be his career. That should be his ceiling. But I just don't see him being a backup point guard on a good team unless he improves in multiple areas. But overall, Saban's a nice story because he's dominating the G League legit. He goes down there, he just destroys them. He makes them look like little kids. So it's funny, but I think he's 3rd point guard in a few years. If he's more than that, icing on the cake with him as well. Let's go ahead and move on to another question, then we'll get to an ad break. Which one do we want to do? This one's a funny one. We'll end with a funny one real quick. This one's from Nick Willis. With a team of Gigi Datome, Carlos Delfino, Mehmet Okur, and I'm going to assume you're saying Mehmet Okur when he was playing days, not him now. Same thing with Carlos Arroyo and Darko Milicic. Would they beat this team tonight? Yes. That's all I'm saying. I have no explanation for it other than some of these guys were legit rotational players in the NBA for a long time. Carlos Delfino, Mehmet Okur, Carlos Arroyo. And yeah, the Pistons, the people the Pistons have out here, most of them aren't in the NBA and have struggled to be in rotation consistently for their career. So I'm just going to go with that because I think Mehmet Okur may be the best player on the court as well. So that's how down bad the Pistons are right now, fellas. We're down bad, man. It's tough out here in these streets, man. When we come back, we'll talk about more of these questions, answer some of you guys' questions, have some more fun on today's podcast. But before we get into that, like I said, we got to tell you guys about some of our sponsors. This one is your guys' favorite sponsor, Built Bar. The best tasting protein bar on the planet Earth comes with a variety of flavors, including all kinds of flavors you guys will have a hard time choosing from, such as would you rather have raspberry or mint brownie? Would you rather have cherry or double chocolate? Would you rather have cookies and cream or peanut butter brownie? All flavors are covered in incredible tasting chocolate and are soft and easy on the teeth to chew. These bars are low in calorie and sugar, but high in protein and fiber. A flavor I suggest is the peanut butter flavor, packed with 19 grams of protein, 180 calories, only 5 grams of sugar, and 5 grams net carbs. So go try a Built Bar. Go to Built.com, use promo code LOCK15, and you'll get 15% off your order. Again, that's Built.com. Use promo code LOCK15, you'll get 15% off your order. Built Bar, the best tasting protein bar ever. I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. And if you haven't already, head over to the YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. But let's go ahead and get right back into some of these questions, man. We're having some fun here. You know what? Let's go ahead and give you guys actually an update of where we are in the Pistons game as I record this. Okay, the Pistons are currently down by 31 points. So, yeah. I'm not missing out on anything, and I hope none of you guys stayed and watched this game. I'm gonna be honest. This is the game I hope you guys just pieced out on. This is not worth watching. But let's go ahead and answer some more of you guys' questions. This one is from Fedro. Oh, this is one of you guys over in France. You guys, this guy tweeted at me and told me that he was watching this game at 2:30 in the morning. First of all, thank you for listening to the podcast and being a fan from overseas, and also thank you for being a fan of the Pistons and somehow staying up till 2 o'clock just to listen or just to watch the Pistons. You're insane, but I respect it. He says, "What would your first decision be if you became the GM of the Detroit Pistons and why?" Okay, that's a fun question. The first decision I would do as a GM of the Pistons, I don't know if it would be like an immediate decision, but I think my first move would be to trade Jeremy Grant. I would find now I'm not saying it would happen immediately, like in a day or 2 days or a week, but that would be like the first move I'd be trying to go after. First move I'd be trying to do is to trade Jeremy Grant and get whatever I can back for him, get that deal done, so I have a better outlook on the season. My players have a better outlook of what their role is going to be for the next year, and I can try to get a piece back. And we'll mention this. There's another question, like I said earlier in the podcast. One of you guys asked me about trade targets. If you can possibly say, let's say, a big guy who's a lob threat, it could help speed up some development with some of your guards. And you want to give your guards as much time during the season with that kind of lob threat. I feel like that would be my first move. My first move would be try to, as quickly as possible, move Jeremy Grant for a deal that I like. So yeah, that would be my first decision as the GM of the Detroit Pistons. Let's go to the next question. This one is from Aussie Piston. It says, with how Sadiq has played with Jeremy out, do you look to move on? What for and which of the tandem do you move? Okay, so I'm going to group this because I have like 3 more questions from you guys asking about Jeremy Grant trade targets. So I'm going to group these questions into all of you guys who asked that into this one. First off, Sadiq has played better with Jeremy out, but just like during the San Antonio game in the first half, he was invisible for a large majority of that game. He is drawing free throws, but he was just invisible for a large majority of it. And he has been up and down. It's not like it's just been consistent highs. He's been up and down. He's had some highs. He also has some lows. I think you're saying that Sadiq is a little streaky right now. So I wouldn't credit Sadiq's play to being why I would move on from Jeremy. Now, Sadiq playing well, and do I think that Jeremy and Sadiq fit well together right now with how they're both trying to play? No. So maybe I would have thought that beforehand, but not since Jeremy went out. Sadiq Bey's play isn't or hasn't yet made it to where, Jeremy has to be out. I believe Jeremy should have been traded before this play started by Sadiq. So I wouldn't say that has much to do with my decision making. But let's get to the Jeremy Grant trade targets. So I think if any of you guys don't understand this, the Pistons or whoever's going to want Jeremy Grant, not the Pistons, whoever's going to want Jeremy Grant, they're going to be a contender. So you have to deal with contenders. You're probably not going to have top picks, is basically what I'm trying to get to. You're not going to be able to get like a top lottery pick or anything. You're going to be dealing with late picks because only contenders are basically going to be wanting him. So I have 3 guys I'm going to say right here, or at least 3 teams that I want to see the Pistons possibly work with. The first one is the Indiana Pacers. If they could somehow swing a 3-team trade where Jeremy Grant goes to contender, or contender sends assets to the Pacers, and the Pacers send Miles Turner to the Pistons, that's my 100% main target. I want the Pistons to go after Miles Turner. I want Miles Turner on the Pistons. I think he would be great. So that's my number 1 target. Number 2 would be the Golden State Warriors. See if the Golden State Warriors want Jeremy Grant. You can somehow try to get Kuminga, James Wiseman. I have the hiccups right now. One of those guys, or maybe even Moses Moody, a combination of those guys for Jeremy Grant and then a salary filler. I would want that trade. So that's another one. And then thirdly, this is the most popular one. I feel like you guys have been seeing rumored across the, articles and fake trades by Bleacher Report. I've seen this one a lot. And that's what the Atlanta Hawks, the Okongwu and Cam Reddish trade. I would 100% bounce on that as quick as possible. You need to go after and take that if it's on the table. I really like both those guys. They're both injury prone, so that's a risk. So I would probably ask for a late first rounder with that, because both of those guys are highly injury prone. You don't know if they're even going to be able to stay on the court for longer than 40 games the rest of the season, or the rest of their, that's how injury prone they've been. So it is a risk, but the potential and what they bring to the table, I really like both those guys, especially Okongwu. So those are the 3 teams and players that I'd be looking out if I was to trade Jeremy Grant. Those are my trade targets of what I want the Pistons to go after. Number 1 by far, Miles Turner. Right behind it, I think, would be James Wiseman. But then I really do like Okongwu and Cam Reddish. So James Wise and Okongwu in the Hawks trade, they're like neck and neck right there. I don't really care. But my number one trade target would be Miles Turner. See if you can get Miles Turner somehow, some way. Let's go ahead and move on to the next question. This one is a fun one. This is from my guy Eli. This is just a fun question. He said, "Have you ever gotten embarrassed in a basketball game, pick up or organized, dunked on, crossed up, just straight up bleeped on by one dude? And if so, did people clown you for it?" Let me tell you guys a little something. I've been I've played basketball my whole life. I play basketball all the time. I'm pretty damn good at it. My high school coach, my high school varsity coach, told me this, and this is 100% true. So this is 100% true. If you have not, if you talk to someone and they try saying that they're a ball player, they hoop for real, for real. If you all you have to do is ask them, have they ever been embarrassed? Have they ever been crossed up? Have they ever been like put on a highlight reel before? If they say no, they ain't no hooper. They're not a hooper for real. Because if you're a hooper for real, you've hooped against other dudes who are monsters. You've hooped against other dudes who are straight up demons. And everyone who hoops, if you hoop with demons, everyone's gonna get put on a highlight reel at some point. Everyone's gonna get crossed up at some point. Everyone's gonna get put on a highlight reel at some point. Unless you're straight up just hooping with trash bags and you're not really that good, you're going to get put on a highlight reel at some point. So yes, I've been crossed up before. I've never been dropped. That's the one thing I haven't been dropped yet on a crossover before. I have been crossed up before. And the only time I've ever been dunked on, and you guys can shout him out if you guys listen to this. Go to Twitter, shout him out. Is my dude, my boy, Sean Bunting, Sean Murphy Bunting over on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He got drafted to them. He's their starting corner. He graduated. He graduated a year ahead of me. He was on my basketball and football team. Me and him are still friends to this day. It was our senior year of basketball practice, and they were inbounding underneath the basket. And I was going. I don't know really why. I don't really know why I was sitting under the basket guarding the inbounds like that. Because we were in a little bit of a zone, but I'm 5'9", so I don't really know why I was underneath there, anyways. But they recognized I was underneath there. They threw a lob on over me from out of bounds, and he dunked it like over me. So I guess that would be. I think that right there would probably be the most embarrassed I've gotten in a basketball game. I can't think of anything else though. I have been crossed up before. I can say that. So clown me if you guys want to. At Sean, if you guys want to, at on Twitter at I think it's Mr. Shawnee B. But yeah, he's the corner over at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I just hooped with him like I think last month. He came back up to Michigan. I hooped with him. But yeah, he probably will remember that senior year he dunked on me in basketball practice. So that was a fun moment. It was funny. He definitely got his words in with that, but I don't blame him. It is what it is. He was one of those guys in high school that you could tell was just like a freak athlete. He was a freak. He played all three sports. He was a freak athlete. You could probably tell that he was going to go somewhere. But let's go ahead and let's get like 2 or 3 more before we wrap up the podcast. Again, I want to thank you guys for getting these questions in because this game tonight, let's go ahead and make another check-in on the game. The Pistons are now down by 29, so they've shortened it up by 2 points. I'm still not going to watch that game. I'm just not going to do it. All right, this one's from Bryce over at Motor City Hoops, the friend of the podcast. He's been on the podcast probably dozens upon dozens of times. He has a funny question here. I'm going to make this known to all you guys right here. I'm done like hiding around this. He's asked me, draft your Pistons Twitter 5v5 teams. I'm letting you guys know this right now. I'm not drafting a team. All I'm going to tell you is this. I'm tired of all the talk going on Twitter. People talk too much. I'd be out here doing this for real every week. I'm going to let you guys know this right now. I don't care who you put, as long as it's not Bryce. Bryce played D1 basketball. He doesn't count. He does not count. Of course, I hope he's able to destroy all of us. He played D1 basketball. But outside of all the people play D1 basketball, I'm the best player on Pistons Twitter. Not a single person's messing with me, and I'm done talking about it. You can put me on whatever team you want, 5v5. If I'm on that team, we're winning the game because there's no one on Pistons Twitter that's going to check me. It's just not going to happen. It is what it is. You guys can go take that to the bank, talk to Twitter, go on there, talk your trash to everybody in the YouTube comments, whatever. But of all fans, beat writers, I don't care who you are, beat writers, fans, writers, site experts, everywhere, all the Pistons community, anyone you want to get out of there, as long as they didn't play D1 basketball, they're not messing with me. It's not happening. So that's my 5v5 team, me and anybody versus whoever you want, and I'll beat them. That's all I got for you. Let's get another question in. If there was one, this one's from Clark Gaming. If there was one draft pick you could take back in the last 5 years, who would it be and who would you have taken instead? This is a super fun question. So in the last 5 years. All right, okay. So if Luke Kennard is in the last 5 years, I believe he is. If Luke Kennard's in the last 5 years, I think you have to take that's the one you have to take Donovan Mitchell. I think that's the very clear one. I like Luke. Okay, yeah, it is in the last 5 years. It's 2017. So Luke, you have to take Donovan Mitchell right there. I think that completely changes the direction of the franchise. You have your franchise player right there, and who knows what happens after that? Because the Pistons had Blake Griffin. So who knows? Who knows what happens if you get Donovan Mitchell and Blake Griffin? Who knows? Because that 2018-19 Blake Griffin was a monster. So who knows what happens at that point? So I think that one obviously is the one. And you, even without the Blake Griffin part, you have a franchise player at like 20 years old, whatever. He's a monster, and you're solidified. And it's not just with Blake Griffin either. With Andre Drummond when he was still in his prime, you've Reggie Jackson. Like that team could have possibly made like a couple of second rounds, won a playoff series. They could have done some noise. So I think that's the main one. But outside the popular one, I feel like that's going to be the main one. The one I would take back, and this is going to shock some of you guys, it would be Sekou Doumbouya. Now, you guys know I was a fan of Sekou, but I would take Sekou's pick back because for this reason only. The regime that drafted him was not there a year later. Yes, Stefanski's somewhere in the front office, but he's not the one making the decisions. And when they drafted him, they knew that he was a project. So, the Pistons never treated him like a project. So it basically was a waste of a pick. If you wanted to draft a project, you should have treated him like a project and gave him like 3 to 5 years and developed him. That's what projects are. He was the youngest player in the draft. He's at 18. You should have developed him for 3 to 5 years. There's no reason in hell he should be off the team. He's a project. At the very least, he should just be chilling in your G League on like a minimum contract. You just have to get rotational minutes. But when you draft a project, there's no reason why he should be off the team after 2 years. So that's the pick I would give away, because obviously they had no plans in treating him like a project. So it was a waste of a pick. It was a stupid pick. If you weren't going to treat him like a project, it was a stupid pick on draft night instantly. It didn't make any sense off the top. So that right there might be the biggest blunder of the Pistons front office of those years of picking Sekou Doumbouya, because if you didn't want to get a prospect, you should have drafted anybody else that was selected after him, because it made no sense what you did with them afterwards. It was literally a waste of a draft pick. So that's my answer to that one. And let's get one more in here, and then we'll wrap up the podcast. Again, I want to thank you guys for getting these questions. I hope you guys had a lot of fun listening to this one. This one is from, I just lost it. Where'd it go? Oh, here it is. This one's from Joel Irvin. And there was a few other ones who asked the question. I'm sorry that I wasn't able to get to all of them, but I tried to get through as many as I could in 30 minutes. But this one's from Joel Irvin. Is Weaver's shine starting to wear off? Now, this is an interesting question. I purposely saved this one for the last because I don't want to ruffle too many feathers. I know the listenership starts to drop off a little bit towards the end, so I don't want to get too much flashback or fall back for this. But let me just say this: is his magic wearing off? Yes. I think the magic that everyone had around him when he first took over, everyone thought he was just like you had the black Air Force Ones with the ski mask on. He's over robbing everybody. All that magic, I think that's worn off. Now, is the appeal of him, his shine, all that stuff wearing off? I don't know. But the magic, I think 100% has, because of the way the seasons went. And I think, and we're not there quite there yet, I think, but we're getting close to a point. Excuse me. We're almost getting to a point where I think after this year, you can start looking at some of the moves he's made and question if he's gotten the most value for some of his moves, and if some of his moves made sense. I'm not going to get into all of them right now, but like the Houston trade with Christian Wood for Isaiah Stewart. If Isaiah Stewart ends up as a high-quality backup, it's a good pick for where he was selected. But with the value that you gave up to get him, it doesn't match up the same. So I think that would be something that should be talked about after this year. Now, that shouldn't be criticizing Isaiah Stewart at all, because for where he was picked, if he becomes a high-quality backup big, that's a great pick for him. He hit his ceiling. He hit what he was supposed to do at his pick. This is about Troy Weaver completely. So I think that would be something that should be talked about a little bit, and maybe next year or a year or two from now, you can guys see that trending that way. Another trade, the Sadiq trade with Luke Kennard, how much you gave up Luke Kennard, and with him, the 4 second-round picks for Sadiq Bey. I think that's something that will continue to be up in the air, that you should continue to talk about, because that was a lot. That's a lot to give up for the 18th, 19th pick. There's that. Also, the way he assembled the team this offseason for this year, while they weren't trying to win, it definitely looks like that it didn't hit where he wanted to. Now they had injuries, and now they have COVID, so obviously not right now. But even before the COVID stuff started to hit, it was rough, really rough. You can question whether this really set the team up and their young guys best for development. His magic, I think, has worn off. His shine, I don't think so yet. I think a lot of people still think very highly of him and believe in where he's going. But yeah, I think his whole magic, the whole idea that he walks around black Air Force Ones with the ski mask on, I think that whole thing is gone, at least until he makes a steal out there sometime. Maybe that meme will come back. But I think his magic is worn off. His shine, I don't think so. But that's all I've got for you guys today on today's podcast. I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. I want to thank you guys again for helping me get to 1,000 subscribers over on the YouTube channel. If you haven't already, head over there, hit that subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it. Locked On Pistons. For your second listen of today, make sure you head over to Locked On Bets, your daily one-stop shop for all your gambling needs. Hosted by your boy Q with expert analysis and insight from Lee Sterling. It's free and available on all your podcast platforms. Thank you guys again for listening today. I hope all you guys listening on YouTube really like the setup. I think the setup looks tight, man. This whole setup, along with the outfit I got on. Look at how the nice black on black Pistons hat with the black Locked On shirt on, man. I'm looking fresh with the whole background going on. So I hope you guys appreciate that on YouTube. And if you guys listen on the podcast version, go check me out on Twitter at Kooka Hill. You guys will see pictures of how the background looks right now. The K jersey's fire, by the way. K jersey, the City Edition. My brother got it for me for Christmas. Absolutely fire. But until the next podcast, hopefully we have some better news about the Pistons coming up at that point. But I'll see you guys then. Peace out, everybody. Go Pistons. Everyone stay safe. I hope you guys had a great Christmas, by the way. But until the next podcast, I'll see you guys later. Peace out, everybody.